Speaking of determinism, as I mentioned when we were emailing beforehand, I just spoke with Robert Sapolsky of Stanford here, and I think his episode will probably come out right before this one. And we talked all about free will and his hard determinist standpoint, in which there is absolutely no such thing. And he mentioned that you two were going to be
Yeah, we're going to have a
debating.
debate or a discussion next week. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be great. But I'm curious. I'm sure this won't come out before your debate comes out. But he casts you, and he uses these words. You're the villain of his new book.
Yeah, but that's
Determined.
because, first of all, he doesn't realize that his main point of objection against me is one that I myself pointed out back in 2004 when I said I was wrong, the marathon example. And yeah, he's right about that. I was wrong about that. I said so 20 years ago. But I give him credit for pointing it out. He's right. I was wrong about that. I regret that. That was a mistake. But once you get rid of that, there's so much agreement between us, actually. We both agree that libertarian free will is nonsense. We both agree that contra-causal free will is a sort of incoherent, magical notion, that there's no such thing. But where we disagree is on whether the kind of free will that's worth wanting can exist in a deterministic world. And I say, yes, it can. Of course it can. And he's a good example of somebody you can count on him. He's reliable. He's in control. That's it. That's what free will is. Some people aren't in control through no fault of their own, and we don't say they have. We say they don't have free will. But the ones that are in control of themselves and not being controlled by other agents, those are the ones that have free will.
I'd like to try something out, and you can tell me if you think it's on the mark. But I have a sense that this might be the heart of your argument against him. His argument against free will is sort of like saying, okay, our folk intuition about consciousness was once dualist, but now that we realize that dualist consciousness isn't an actuality, we're just not conscious. But what you would say is, no, we are conscious. It's just not what we thought consciousness was. And consciousness is just a word, and we get to determine what it means. And the parallel to free will is that he takes free will to mean this pre-theoretical folk idea of free will, which is freedom from causation. And you would say, no, we agree. We don't have that. But free will is just a term, and we can stipulate that it means the sort of free will that we believe we have, and then explain why we have it.
And you know, if I were just stipulating out of the clear blue sky, that would be one thing. But in fact, I say, look at all the things that my kind of free will has that are important and that we want. We want to be in control of our lives. We want to be responsible. We want to be seen to be responsible agents. We want to be able to sign contracts and make promises and be trusted and loved. And all of those things follow very nicely from my concept of free will, which is also, by the way, pretty much the law's concept of free will. When I went to sign the mortgage papers when we bought a house a few years back, I was amused that the notary public asked me, was I signing this of my own free will? I said, yes, I am. And what I meant by that was, I'm not a zombie. I'm not crazy. I'm not being remotely controlled by other agents. I'm not under threat of murder and torture by some evil blackmailer. I'm signing this of my own free will. That's good. That's what we want. And it's the thing to understand about free will it's not a metaphysical condition, it's an achievement. It's you grow into it. Some people, alas, don't. They don't grow into it because they have rotten childhoods or because they have brain damage or some other terrible accident befalls them. And we have to take care of them. We have to, and we want to take care of them. And it's through no fault of their own that they don't have free will. By the way, as an 81-year-old, I can say my future probably holds a period, unless I die suddenly, where I will lose my free will and I'll no longer be competent to sign a contract or, for that matter, to change my will or to make a binding promise. You can lose your free will. And free will is a matter of having a set of competences, you might call them moral competences, which most people have. Most people. It's not 100%, but it's probably 90% of people, above the age of 18, let's say, that have reliable free will that can play the role of a promiser, a citizen, a drinker, a driver. You can't get a driver's license until you're 16. That's an arbitrary date, but you have to pick a date just so that the law is understood and not too cumbersome. And so we understand that there are people that we cannot trust to control themselves. They don't have free will. But it's something most of us cherish, and for very good reasons.
So I've read your book, Freedom Evolves, and then there's also your earlier work, Elbow Room, which
Yes.
I'd point our listeners to if they want a more thorough defense and understanding of your view on free will. But returning to, I think you said freedom grows. Returning back to this idea of freedom growing, developing, evolving, I am wondering if, just to make this a bit more concrete, we have my cat here, and I'm wondering why, or if you would say that my cat has free will, or how her free will might compare on a spectrum to the free will of my watch, which is just a mechanism, because I think that this also parallels what you said earlier about consciousness not being all or nothing. She has a shadow of my free will, maybe.
Yeah, let's take your cat. Nice cat there. Your cat can't make a promise. Your cat, your cat can't think ahead about ways to either help you or hurt you beyond a few seconds. Your cat can't fend for itself. Well, cats can do pretty well, actually, if they go feral. A cat has a lot more free will than a Portuguese man-o-war, because a Portuguese man-o-war just has to float wherever it floats. It's blown by the wind. It's more like the boulder that's rolling down the mountainside, controlled by gravity and the friction and the whatever wind is blowing. But your cat has some level of autonomy, but it's not very much. And it's not for nothing that we have the expression herding cats. Cats exhibit their own agendas, their own ability to withstand the remote control of others quite well. Better, in fact, than dogs. Dogs are more obedient, more puppet-like, if you want to put it that way. So I would say your cat has more free will than a dog does.
That's interesting. No, my dog is on the bed, and you're probably right. He is easy to herd.
Yeah. And that's the key. The reason free will is important is that autonomous agents like us are dangerous because it's like herding cats. There are too many things we can do. So we school them, we train them, we encourage them to be law-abiding, to respect the law, to respect other citizens, to be friendly and gentle and honest and so forth. And if we do a pretty good job of that, then when our children, say, become 18 or 21, we're happy to launch them. Go ahead, go out in the world, do what you want, because we trust you to think about what you want carefully enough so that you won't do a lot of damage. But in order to do that, we have to have a system of laws. We have to, and they have to be laws. And that means there has to be punishment. Here's a wrinkle that a lot of people haven't thought of, I've discovered. There are lots of psychopaths out there. They're dangerous. Most of the psychopaths, however, they never break the law. Not because they're wonderfully honest and thoughtful people, but because they don't want to get caught and put in jail. And so they do their best imitation of an honest person that they can muster, and they go through their lives and they don't do any harm at all. The ones that are inept or have even less self-control than the others, they're the ones that they fill the prisons. And we have to take those people out of circulation because they're too dangerous. But if we had a good test of psychopathy, the last thing we should do is put all the psychopaths in restraint. We should allow them the same freedoms we allow to you and me, to go out and live life, sign contracts, buy property, make promises, vote, all those things, but recognize that they're subject to the laws. And if they get caught, they're going to be punished. And happily, that does a great job of taming. I don't know anybody has any good statistics on this, but I would say most of the psychopaths in the world. Supposing that we have a fairly reliable psychiatric definition of what a psychopath is. A lot of psychopaths are CEOs of great corporations. They don't break the law. They may be mean sons of guns sometimes, but they know which side their bread is buttered on, and they stay on the right side of the law, and they live out their lives. And they have free will. The ones that are really deranged don't.